What if I told you that your credit card debt is not a money problem? What if I told you it's a faith problem, a belief problem, a what you've been told about money and God problem? Most people wake up every morning and look at their debt and think, I need more money, I need a better job, I need to work harder. But you've been working hard, you've been grinding, you've been sacrificing, and nothing changes. Because the problem is not how much you make. The problem is what you believe. Good morning, it's 5:30 a.m. And today everything changes. Before we begin, take 3 deep breaths with me. Not because breathing is magic, because you need to slow down. You've been running for so long, running from bills, running from collectors, running from the shame. Just stop for 30 seconds. Breathe in the promise of overflow. Breathe out every fear of not enough. Again, breathe in abundance. Breathe out scarcity. One more time. Breathe in. Feel your chest expand. That's capacity. That's what we're unlocking today. Now open your eyes. Let me tell you something the church won't. God wants you rich, not comfortable, not just enough. Rich. I know what you're thinking. That sounds wrong. That sounds greedy. That sounds like prosperity gospel. Stay with me. Don't leave. Because I'm not talking about the kind of rich that buys yachts and ignores the poor. I'm talking about the kind of rich that can't help but give. The kind of rich that blesses everyone around it. The kind of rich that God promised Abraham. I will bless you, God said, and you will be a blessing. Blessing is not for hoarding. Blessing is for sharing. But you cannot share what you do not have. What so God wants you to have, not so you can consume, so you can circulate. That credit card statement sitting on your counter right now, the one that makes your chest tighten every time you see it, that's not your identity. That's not your future. That's a season. And seasons change. You're here this morning because something in you knows there's another way. A way that doesn't involve grinding harder, sacrificing more, or white-knuckling your way to zero. There's a garden, and in that garden, everything you plant returns. Not sometimes, not if you're lucky, always, because that's how gardens work. That's how God works. But here's the thing about gardens. You don't control the harvest. You don't force the fruit. You plant, you water, you trust. And you wait in a posture of expectation, not desperation. Most of you have been waiting in desperation. Please, God, send money. Please, God, fix this. Please, God, I'm drowning. That's not faith. That's fear dressed up as prayer. Expectation is different. Expectation says, I know who my Father is. I know He owns every silver and every gold. I know He has never failed. So I'm not desperate. I'm expectant. That's the posture of the garden. So this morning, I'm going to teach you 3 things in the next hour. 1. Why credit card debt is spiritual bondage, not just a number on a screen. 2. The mantras you need to speak over your finances starting today, not tomorrow, today. 3. The one principle that breaks the cycle. The principle nobody talks about because it sounds too simple. But simple doesn't mean easy, and it definitely doesn't mean weak. If you've been planting and seeing nothing grow, this is for you. If you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck while watching others overflow, stay with me. If you're ready to stop apologizing for wanting more and start stewarding what God is trying to pour into your hands, you're in the right place. This is not for everyone. This is for the ones ready to step into what's already been prepared. Let's go into the garden. There's a story you've been told about money, a story so old, so familiar, so embedded in your soul that you think it's true. Here's how the story goes. Money is hard to get. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy. Debt is normal. Struggling is noble. And if you want more, you're selfish. Have you heard the story? Have you repeated it to yourself? Have you taught it to your children? Let me tell you what that story really is. It's a lie, a very old lie, and it's kept more people in bondage than any chain ever could. The enemy doesn't need to put you in physical chains. He just needs to put you in financial chains. Because when you're in financial chains, you're not dangerous to his kingdom. When you're worried about your mortgage, you're not planting churches. When you're stressed about your credit card, you're not feeding the poor. When you're anxious about your bills, you're not sharing your faith. Debt is not just a financial problem. Debt is a spiritual weapon, and you have been defeated by it for too long. Here's the truth the garden knows. Money is not the root of evil. The love of money is. There's a difference, a massive difference. You can have wealth and worship God. You can overflow and stay humble. You can be generous because you have much, not in spite of it. The Bible does not say, "Blessed are the broke." It says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." That's humility. That's not a bank account. You can be broke and proud. You can be rich and humble. The condition of your heart is not determined by the size of your wallet. And yet the church taught you to be suspicious of abundance, to apologize for wanting comfort, to feel guilty when the blessing comes. That's not theology. That's trauma. Financial trauma dressed up as holiness. Let me show you what God actually said. He told Abraham, "I will bless you and you will be a blessing." Not "I'll bless you and you better stay humble and poor so people know you're spiritual." No. Be blessed, overflow. Then bless others from that overflow. He told Solomon, "Ask for whatever you want." And Solomon asked for wisdom. And God said, "Because you didn't ask for riches, I'm giving you riches anyway." Wisdom and wealth together, not opposed. He told the Israelites in the wilderness, "I've given you the power to produce wealth, not the power to survive, the power to produce." Do you see the pattern? God is not anti-wealth. God is anti-hoarding. God is not anti-money. God is anti-greed. God is not anti-prosperity. God is anti-idolatry. The problem is not your desire to have enough. The problem is your belief that you never will. That belief is a seed, and you've been watering it for years. Let me take you back to the beginning, the very beginning. Genesis chapter 2. God planted a garden, not a field, not a farm. A garden is different from a farm. A farm is about production. A garden is about relationship. God planted a garden in Eden, and then he did something interesting. He put Adam in the garden. He didn't put Adam in a factory. He didn't put Adam in an office. He put Adam in a garden, and he gave Adam a job: work the garden and keep it. That's the first job description in the Bible. Work, keep, tend, steward. Adam was not a consumer. He was a steward. The garden was not his, it was God's. Adam just managed it. And here's what's beautiful. The garden had everything Adam needed: food, water, beauty, purpose, community, everything. Adam didn't have to beg God for provision. Provision was already there. And Adam just had to steward it. That's your original design. You were made to be a steward in a garden of abundance, not a beggar in a desert of scarcity. But then something happened. The fall. Sin entered the world, and the ground was cursed, not destroyed, cursed. Thorns and thistles, sweat and toil. The garden became harder to work, but the garden was still there. The provision was still there. The river was still flowing, but now Adam had to fight for the harvest. Now you have to fight for your financial freedom. Here's what I need you to see. Your debt is not the curse. Your debt is a symptom of living outside the garden. You've been trying to produce fruit and soil that you haven't tended. You've been trying to harvest from seeds you never planted. You've been trying to get water from a well you've ignored. The garden is still there. God's provision is still there. The river is still flowing, but you have to work the garden. You have to keep it. You have to steward it. Most of you have been waiting for God to do something that God already did. He already planted the garden. He already put the river there. He already gave you the power to produce wealth. Now you have to work. Not to earn God's favor. You already have that. To access what He already gave you. Let me ask you something. If you were Adam, standing in the Garden of Eden, with fruit hanging from every tree, would you complain to God that you're hungry? No. You would walk to the nearest tree and pick the fruit. The provision is there. You just have to reach for it. Your financial provision is there. God has already released it. But you've been complaining instead of reaching. So you've been praying instead of planting. You've been begging instead of budgeting. Today that changes. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. Place your hand over your heart. Feel it beating. That's life. That's movement. That's flow. Now say this quietly, just to yourself. I trust the flow of provision. Good. You just unlocked something. Now let's go deeper. You've been taught that wanting more is greed, that praying for provision is faithless, that struggling financially is somehow spiritual. Let me tell you what the garden knows. Rain doesn't apologize for falling. The seed doesn't apologize for drinking, and you don't apologize for receiving what God is pouring out. Overflow is not excess, it's design. The cup that only fills to the brim serves one person. The cup that overflows waters everyone around it. That credit card debt you're carrying, it's been teaching you a lie. It's been teaching you that you don't have enough, that you have to borrow. That provision is scarce. But what if I told you that belief is the only thing keeping you in debt? Every month, you're not just paying interest. You're paying tribute to a system that wants you dependent, a cycle that feeds on your lack. But here's what the garden knows. Debt is not your identity, it's a season, and seasons change. Here's the first truth you're going to speak today. Say it with me. Credit card debt does not define my future. Again, out loud this time. Credit card debt does not define my future. One more time. Let it settle in your chest. Credit card debt does not define my future. You don't have to believe this 100% right now. Just say it. Repetition doesn't ask for permission from your doubt. It rewrites your doubt. Now let me give you 4 more mantras for this morning. Say each one after me. Mantra 2. I am a steward, not a slave. Mantra 3. My debt is a season, not a life sentence. Mantra 4. God's provision for me is already released. Mantra 5. Today I start planting something different. Now say all 5 together. 1. Credit card debt does not define my future. 2. I am a steward, not a slave. 3. My debt is a season, not a life sentence. 4. God's provision for me is already released. 5. Today I start planting something different. Death and life are in the power of your tongue. You're not just speaking words, you're planting seeds, and those seeds will grow. Now let's talk about money, not spiritually, practically. That credit card debt has interest. 15%, 20%, 25%, and every month that interest is eating what you're trying to pay off. You know this. You've done the math. You've seen how slow it moves. So here's the first practical step. You need to stop feeding it. And I don't mean stop paying. I mean stop using it. Every time you swipe that card, you're saying, I don't have enough right now. And the universe hears that. God hears that. And you get more of what you declare. The first act of faith is this: cut up the card, not later, today. I know that feels scary. I know it feels like losing a safety net. But it's not a net. It's a trap. And you've been caught in it long enough. Let me tell you what happens when you cut it up. You declare, and I'm done borrowing from my future. I trust that provision meets me today. And when you declare that, the garden hears you, and provision starts showing up in ways you didn't expect. A refund you forgot about, a side opportunity, a gift, a deal, a breakthrough. It doesn't always look like a paycheck, but it always shows up. I've seen it happen hundreds of times, not because of magic, because of alignment. When you stop using credit cards, you stop sending the message that you don't have enough. You start sending the message that you trust God for today, and that message changes everything. Now, the second practical step, you need an emergency fund, not a big one, not yet, just something. $500, $1,000, enough that when the car breaks or the bill comes, you don't reach for the card, you reach for the fund. That fund is not lack of faith, it's evidence of wisdom. Joseph didn't question God when he stored grain for 7 years. He obeyed. And when famine came, Egypt ate. The emergency fund is your grain, your buffer, your declaration that says, I'm preparing for breakthrough, not bracing for disaster. And here's the beautiful part. Once you have it, you stop living in panic. You stop making decisions from fear. You start making them from peace. And peace is the soil where good decisions grow. So here's your homework for today. Action 1. Cut up your credit cards, every single one. Take a pair of scissors right now, cut them into pieces. Say out loud as you cut each one, I am done borrowing from my future. Action 2. Open a savings account just for emergencies. Put $5 in it today, just 5. Tomorrow, put 5 more. The next day, 5 more. Small seeds grow into big trees. Action 3. Write down your 5 mantras on an index card. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Read them every morning for 30 days. These 3 actions will change your life, not because they're complicated, because they're faithful. Now let's talk about the root system, because everything you see above ground starts below it. You can plant a seed, you can water it, but if the roots don't go deep, the plant falls over when the wind comes, and the wind always comes. The root system of your financial breakthrough is not a budget, it's not a side hustle, it's not a better job. It's faith, disciplined, daily, deliberate. Let me tell you about sacred budgeting. It's not restriction, it's assignment. Every dollar has a purpose, just like every seed has a season. You don't plant corn and expect wheat. And you don't spend your emergency fund on impulse and expect peace. A budget is not a prison, it's a map. It tells you where your money's going, and more importantly, it tells you where it's not going. Because here's the thing about money. It doesn't stay where you don't tell it to go. It leaks. It evaporates. It disappears into, I don't know where it went. But when you budget, when you assign, when you say this much for food, this much for bills, this much for debt, this much for giving, this much for the future, money obeys. Not because budgets are magic, because clarity is. Now here's the part most people skip. The tithe. I know what you're thinking. I can barely pay my bills. You want me to give away 10%? Yes, I do. And here's why. The tithe is not a payment to God. God doesn't need your money. The tithe is a declaration. It says, I trust that 90% with God's blessing goes further than 100% without it. And I'm going to tell you something you won't hear anywhere else. Every person I know who broke out of debt tithed their way out. Not budgeted, not hustled, tithed. Because when you give first, you unlock something in the spiritual realm. You move from consumer to steward, from taker to giver, and the garden only multiplies what's planted. You can't give what you don't have, but you also can't receive what you won't release. So the root system has 3 parts. 1, budget like a steward, not a slave. 2, tithe like a gardener, not a beggar. 3, pray over your finances every single day. Not God, give me money. That's desperation. Pray, God, show me where I'm leaking. Show me what to cut. Show me what to plant. And give me the discipline to obey when you do. Because discipline is the root system no one wants to talk about. You can have all the faith in the world, but if you keep swiping the card, keep ignoring the budget, keep spending emotionally, the tree falls. Faith without works is dead, and works without faith is just exhausting. You need both, the spiritual and the practical, the prayer and the plan. Let me tell you a story about a woman who was exactly where you are. Her name is Sarah. She had $50,000 in debt, credit cards, medical bills, a car loan she couldn't escape. She was drowning. Every month she paid. Every month the balance barely moved. She started having panic attacks when the mail came. She hid from her phone. She lied to her kids. She felt like a failure. And then one night she hit bottom. She sat on her bathroom floor at 2 a.m. and cried. Not a quiet cry, the kind of cry that comes from somewhere deep. And she said something she had never said before. She said, I can't do this anymore. Not I don't want to, I can't. I am at the end. That was her bottom. But here's what Sarah didn't know. The bottom is not the end. The bottom is the foundation. When you hit rock bottom, you have nowhere to go but up, but only if you stop digging. Sarah stopped digging that night. She put down the shovel. She stopped using credit cards. She stopped borrowing from tomorrow. She stopped pretending everything was fine. The next morning she got up before the sun. She made coffee. She sat at her kitchen table with a notebook and a pen. And she wrote down every single debt, every card, every bill, every loan. Seeing it on paper was different than seeing it on apps. It was real. It was $50,000 in her own handwriting. She cried again, but this time she kept writing. Then she prayed, not a church prayer, a desperate prayer. God, I have made a mess. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if it can be fixed, but I can't do it alone. I need you. Show me what to do. Give me the strength to do it. And don't let me give up. That prayer took 30 seconds, but it was the most honest 30 seconds of her life. And something shifted, not in her bank account, in her spirit. She felt hope, not hope that her debt would disappear overnight. Hope that she wasn't alone. Sarah started applying everything I'm teaching you today. She cut up her cards. She built an emergency fund. She started tithing. She spoke mantras every morning. She made a budget. She stuck to it. And 18 months later, she made her last payment, $50,000. Gone. She drove to her sister's house. She walked in the door. She handed her sister a piece of paper. It was a screenshot of her credit card balance. 0. Her sister screamed. They cried together. They hugged. They danced in the kitchen. Sarah is not special. She's not a financial genius. She didn't have a high-paying job. She just decided to stop digging and start planting, and the garden responded. The garden always responds to planting. Now it's your turn, not tomorrow, today, right now. I'm going to lead you in a prayer, not a religious prayer, a planting prayer, a prayer that'll start your journey. Bow your head, close your eyes, put your hand over your heart. Pray with me. Father, I come to you this morning at 5:30 a.m. I'm on my knees, not because you are far, because I need to remember who you are. You are the King of Kings. You own every silver and every gold. My debt is not a problem for you. It's just an assignment. I confess that I have made mistakes with money. I have borrowed from tomorrow. I have spent what I didn't have. I have believed the lie that I will never have enough. Today, I renounce that lie. I choose to believe your truth instead. Your truth says you will supply all my needs. Your truth says you have given me the power to produce wealth. Your truth says I am a steward, not a slave. Father, I cut the cords of debt today. I break the chains. I close the door to the spirit of lack. I open the door to the spirit of abundance. Give me the courage to cut up my cards. Give me the discipline to build my emergency fund. Give me the faith to give first. Give me the patience to wait for the harvest. I am planting my seed today. I trust you for the rain. I trust you for the growth. I trust you for the harvest. In Jesus' name, amen. Now open your eyes. Here's your homework. Not tomorrow. Today, homework 1. Cut up your credit cards, every single one. Take scissors right now. Cut them into pieces. Say as you cut, I am done borrowing from my future. Homework 2. Open a savings account. Put $5 in it today. Just 5. Homework 3. Write down your 5 mantras on an index card. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Read them every morning for 30 days. Homework 4. Write down your debt, all of it, on one piece of paper. The creditor, the balance, the interest rate, the minimum payment. Face it, that's the first step to freedom. Homework 5. Pray that prayer every morning for 30 days. Not because God needs to hear it again, because you need to remember what you decided. You just started something powerful. You planted your first seed. You spoke your first mantras. You cut your first cord. You prayed your first prayer. This is day 1 of your 90-day journey, and I want you to know what's coming. Tomorrow, we're going to speak 30 prosperity mantras, 30 declarations that will rewire your brain. Day 3, we're going to learn sacred budgeting, why your spending plan is actually worship. Day 4, the law of the seed. What you plant today determines what you harvest tomorrow. Day 5, the debt-breaking prayer. A prayer of spiritual warfare against every chain holding you. Day 6, heaven's economy versus your mortgage. 7 differences that will flip everything. Day 7, the woman who paid off $50,000 in 18 months through faith. Her full story, her 7 principles. Can on her homework for you. That's your week. That's your garden. and you're already in it. You started the moment you pressed play this morning. You started the moment you said credit card debt does not define my future. You started the moment you put your hand over your heart and said, I trust the flow of provision. So don't stop now. Don't stop tomorrow. Don't stop when it gets hard. The harvest is coming, not because you're perfect, because you're planting. I'll see you tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. Until then, guard your tongue. Every word is a seed, and your harvest is already on its way.